y'all, welcome to my channel. I'm Ashley here and I love sharing videos about my small business, an Etsy shop where I sell dog inspired products for you and your dog bestie, as well as videos about dog mom life. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'd love for you to follow along in our story. As we make videos, you'll get notified and it would really support my small business. So thank you so much for your subscription. For today's video, I thought it would be fun to talk about our cross-country move from Arizona to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. This is something I was very nervous to do with two dogs, and I wasn't quite sure what the best way to go around it is, and it's definitely different for, whatever kind of dog you have and what they prefer and just a personal preference, but I thought maybe kind of telling how we did it, because it did go a lot better than I had anticipated, could help some of you in the future if you're planning a long road trip or you're moving across the country with your dogs. So let's get started. All right. So once we found out we were moving to Alabama, we kind of considered a couple options. The first option we had was we could fly to Alabama. Obviously, putting our dogs in a plane, they're a little too large to be able to take where the passengers go, so that would mean crating them up and putting them in an airplane. Or we could drive across the country with our dogs, and I personally just didn't feel comfortable putting them in an airplane, so we decided that we were going to make the long drive over 3 days with our dogs. Now, typically our dogs, they have been in cars before, they're used to going to daycare and going different places. However, they don't always have the best behavior in the car. They get really excited, so they'll start barking if the car slows down, thinking that we're stopping somewhere fun. So I was definitely worried to bring them for 3 days in a car, thinking, oh, they might behave badly. But we did a couple things to try to mitigate this. The first thing we did, so we had 2 cars that we shipped to Alabama. One was a smaller SUV and then something closer to a sedan, and we decided we were going to rent a minivan. It's not really our style, but we wanted the extra space and we thought it would give the dogs a little bit more space in the row behind the front seats, just so that way they could lay down, and also provided us more storage to bring more things with us across the country. So we got this minivan and I put up a dog hammock in the kind of middle row of the van. I personally like using seat belts for my dogs and clipping them to the harnesses, so that is what I felt good as a dog parent, just trying to keep them safe. I didn't put them in a kennel in the back of the car just because I personally have been rear-ended before in an accident, and I just can't fathom having my dog in the back of the car in a kennel. If that were to happen again, it would just destroy me. So I like having them nearby but buckled in and with their harness nearby as well. So I had the seat belts on them, the harnesses. I laid down a big comfy mattress comforter down so they'd have more comfort to lay on while they were there. And that was our setup for the car, the minivan that we had. Now, in order to get on the road and not have the dogs be too suspicious, we did put them overnight in dog boarding or the doggy hotel. We put them there the night before we moved, and then we picked them up when we were ready to hit the road, and they were so tired from all the fun times that they had at the daycare. So they were excited to get in the car, but also they were tired, so they slept all of that first day. We drove from Phoenix, Arizona to our first stop in Los Alamos, New Mexico. We had left in the middle of the day or so the dogs had a lot of time to play while they were at daycare, and by the time we got to Los Alamos, it was dark. It was maybe like 9 p.m. at night. Now, my next suggestion or recommendation, if you are traveling across the country with your dog, definitely look for hotels that are pet friendly and that have little kitchenettes in them, because that just makes it easier as far as trying to feed your dog, and also if you need to bring your own food to cook, it was really handy to have. So we did have a dog-friendly hotel that we stayed at with a little kitchenette, so it was easy for us to kind of prepare the dogs food that we give them, and also we brought some homemade food for ourselves because we just love eating homemade food, and we weren't sure if restaurants were going to be open by the time that we got there. So yeah, after we had got to the hotel, the dogs were very excited. to be at the hotel. They have never stayed at a human hotel before, just the doggy hotel. So it was kind of fun, and we just made sure that one of us was in the room at all times with the dogs. We never leave them in there by themselves, just for safety purposes. And the first night, it was a good night. So yeah, we woke up the next morning. We got on the road early because this was going to be our longest driving day. We were driving from Los Alamos, New Mexico, gosh, all the way to Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Now, this one was a little tougher, I would say, but something that we did start doing along the way is we would stop at gas stations that have dog parks. So in case you weren't aware, there are Love's gas stations pretty frequently along a lot of the freeways here. And the Love's gas stations, they have little dog parks where you can take your dog off the leash and they can walk around and go to the bathroom. And so that's how we'd exercise our dogs. We would stop about every 2 to 3 hours and let them out. We try to get them water, give them food. I will say, like, overall, the dogs weren't really that hungry on the trip. I think they were just a little excited, maybe not sure what's going on. They would take a treat, but as far as their kibble goes, you know, we had to do the best we could with what was going on, but we tried to get them to eat dog food as much as possible on the trip. So yeah, we'd stop at these gas stations, the dogs would get out, exercise, we'd walk them around for maybe like 15 minutes just to stretch their legs, and back in the car we go. And every time we were in the car, they were actually the best, well-behaved. I think they knew something was up, especially just being on the freeway for all the drive. If we were to get off the freeway, they'd get a little excited, but they knew when we were on the freeway that we were driving, and it was probably best just to take a nap. So they were there just sleeping the way through, and that really long day, we managed to get through it. And we spent our second night in a hotel in Dallas, Fort Worth area. This one was more in a city, but there was nice walking trails close to the hotel. If you can, and you're going on a trip, I definitely recommend checking out hotels that are near parks or have near walking paths nearby. I will say the hotel we stayed at in Los Alamos, when we got there, there was like signs that there were rattlesnakes nearby, and that was a little unnerving, so I didn't really want to like take the dogs off into nature and walk them there. But in Dallas Fort Worth, it was like a well-developed community park that was very safe to walk the dogs in. So Dallas Fort Worth was super nice. We enjoyed our stay there, and the next morning we woke up and it was raining so much, and we just thought, man, we gotta get out of here. We need to get on the road. We had another long day ahead of us, traveling from Dallas Fort Worth all the way to Tuscaloosa. We kind of had a routine at this point as far as traveling with the dogs and bringing our stuff from the minivan into the hotel, back to the minivan. But because it was raining pretty bad and we saw the weather was going to be awful, we thought we better get on the road as quickly as possible just to beat the weather. So we loaded up the dogs early in the morning. It was still dark outside, and we got on the freeway and started driving. For this morning, we didn't stop for a long time because the weather was so bad. We saw cars like floating on the freeway. Luckily, on the side of the freeway we were on, it was safe to drive, but we had to go a lot slower than anticipated because of how much flooding there was on the freeway and on the streets. But eventually, we made it out of that zone and kind of made our way into closer to Louisiana before stopping next. So I would definitely say this last day, it felt longer, like time was moving slower just because we were so excited to get there. The dogs, they were still really well behaved, but we really just wanted to get a place for them to kind of be settled and not have to be in the car as much. We usually take our dogs out as much as we can, so this was definitely a little bit of a push for them, I would say. But after maybe, oh gosh, I can't remember, somewhere between maybe like 9 to 10 hours that day, we finally arrived in Tuscaloosa. Our house wasn't ready for us yet, so we stayed in another dog-friendly hotel for a week, but we made sure to get one that was next to a park so we could easily walk our dogs. And once we got here, we lived in the same hotel room for a week, And just imagine, like, people aren't really coming to clean the hotel room because we have dogs, so we definitely did a lot of self-cleaning, and you know, we just would ask the front desk for new bed sheets just because the dogs, they mess it up throughout the day, so we just try to keep things as clean as possible and create routines for them from the hotel. So it kind of felt like, okay, they knew what was going on, they knew when we would give them walks, and they were pretty well behaved, I would say, in the hotel. You just gotta keep them from barking, try to keep them calm, and overall I think they did pretty good. And yeah, so that was just a little bit about our trip across the country. I would say my biggest recommendations, if you're gonna do this, definitely, if your dog is like really excited in the car, try to get them like tired out before you start the long road trip. Make sure you have a setup in your car that you're comfortable with as like a dog parent, and you feel like your dog will be safe and that you'll feel okay about it. And then, you know, definitely research your hotels ahead of time. Make sure they're dog friendly. See what kind of area they're in. Make sure they're in a nice area that has access to walking trails, or at least, you know, nice places to walk your dog, I'll say. And I would also recommend just don't worry so much as a dog parent. Like, the dog's gonna figure it out, and it'll be, you know, it'll probably be a little easier than expected, and you'll feel really glad when you get there. I know me personally, I still like can't believe that I moved across the country with my dog. Some days I'm like, wow, that is something I never thought I would do. And after doing it, I felt a lot more confident about long road trips and traveling with the dogs. And so now we do take the dogs more places than we would have before, just because we had never gone on long road trips. We had only done short drives places, and they were a little, we'll say, ill-behaved on the short drives, but the long drives, they actually did really good. So I will go ahead and put some links down below in the description of some of the equipment that I use for my setup in the minivan. If you guys have any questions about traveling with a dog across the country, definitely feel free to put those in the chat. I would love to answer them, and yeah, I'll keep an eye out. Thank you guys so much for joining. Bye.